are a lot of ways we can define what a civilization is. We can look at urbanization, agriculture, state structure, common cultural identity. But I think that the central defining characteristic of a civilization is that it has a stratified social hierarchy. And there are a lot of factors that determine who has power in these hierarchies. For example, gender, race, religion, wealth. Personally, as a teenage girl who comes from an educated family, I've been granted power because of my access to education and excluded from power due to the patriarchy. Historically, education has always been correlated with power. China had a civil service exam under the Han Dynasty that basically gave whoever passed it access to the high-status, powerful government careers. And class was a major factor, as class and education tend to be closely linked. But regardless, it was a system that allowed for power to be gained through education. And that's still the way the world works. The highest-paying jobs generally require high levels of education. Education grants you stability, opportunity, and respect. I come from a family where both of my parents went to college, and because of that, they know more about the education system. They can help me. My parents encouraged me to apply to Apple. That's something I never would have done on my own. And being in a program like Apple is a clear educational privilege. We go on trips, we see speakers, we get individualized, in-depth college counseling. All of this gives students like me power going forward in their lives. But on the other hand, as a girl, the patriarchy denies me power. Most of the societies after the agricultural revolution have been patriarchal in nature, and we can see this in codified law like Hammurabi's Code from ancient Babylon that defines women as the property of the men in her family, and in China's 3 obediences, which make it clear that women must be submissive to men at every stage of their lives. The patriarchy has changed over time, but it has persisted into the present day. I'm lucky to live in a part of the world where a lot of progress has been made towards gender equality, but even here in the US, there are problems like the sexual assault epidemic and the complacency towards sexual assault when the perpetrator is someone wealthy and important. The culture of objectification, the lack of representation for women, the lack of protection against misogynistic violence. These are national problems, but we've all come face to face with them. At my very own high school, a student threatened to kill multiple girls because he disapproved of their sexual behavior, and the administration framed it as a simple cyberbullying issue, not even addressing the misogyny underlying it. This is heavy stuff, and it makes me wonder what I can do. And personally, I'm very passionate about activism. I believe that having your voice heard is incredibly important, so I try to be vocal about what I believe in. I've spoken at rallies, recently on the radio. I've taken part in protests. Right now I'm actually working on organizing a school walkout. And I help out with a lot of programs that start conversations around these issues, specifically education access. I'm part of this nonprofit called Just Communities, and we do a lot of work towards both closing the racial achievement gap, but also having honest, open conversations about it. And so I see a lot of opportunity to work towards change in these areas with this passion I have for activism. In the future, I'd like to see a world where the education system benefits everyone. I'd like to see a world that is not patriarchal. But what's really difficult is trying to figure out how to make that huge step towards liberation. I don't know how to make laws change, and sometimes issues feel so huge that I don't know what to do. But I'm going to keep working towards the goals I have. Diversifying programs like Apple, providing supports for high-achieving, underprivileged students, sharing stories and starting conversations. And I'm going to hope that all the little changes I make will add up someday.